go.
Welcome to Not a Great Whisperer podcast. This is your host, Katie Ray. I am joined with Edie Darling today. Not only is it a new friend of mine, but we're going to learn a lot about her today. She is an ambassador of peace. She works in law enforcement. She is an author, which I just found out 2 seconds ago. And there's just so many things I really am excited to learn and her to talk about today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Katie.
I think this shows the power of social media, just getting connected, seeing people that feel the same way about humans and just unity. I love that you reached out because after I got to know some things you're working on, I thought it was amazing. I get little chills reading about really the push that you're making and being in the ministry as well. I think that's powerful. So let's jump into what started you on this journey, kind of how you got to where you are today.
So one thing about me is I say that everything started when I was a little girl, because I've always been that one who always strived to do what's right and want to see what's right for people. And so what got me into law enforcement in the first place was an incident that took place in our home when my 2 brothers were robbed outside of our home. And my mother said that she wanted to call the police. Well, you have to understand, I grew up in a community where law enforcement and community weren't friends. And so all I heard were the horrific stories about my mom and my father telling us about when they grew up and how people who look like me, Black and browns, were not treated equally. And therefore, they talked about the stories of the lynchings and the police brutality. So when my mom said that she had to call the police when my brothers got robbed, I was adamant. I was like, no. And my mom was like, yes, we have to call. But when the officer came into the home, he didn't treat us as what I had been previously told, is that they're going to tell us to shut up, sit down, use racial epithets. But when he came into the home, he was a young Caucasian male, and he came in and treated our family with the utmost respect. And that changed the trajectory of how I looked at law enforcement and how I looked at people who didn't look like me. And so my mom invited him to sit down at our dinner table. And if you can imagine, Katie, us sitting here at a table, that's where conversation takes place. That's where the heart comes forth. And so he listened to my mother. He listened to my brothers. And I saw humanity unfolding. And so as he got ready to walk out of the house, he made no promises to us, but he shook everybody's hand. And when he shook my hand, I knew right there at that moment that he had passed a torch to me. And so I looked up at my mother and I said, Mom, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And she's like, what's that, baby? I want to be a police officer. She says, no, baby. You want to be a nurse.
No. You know, I didn't hear that part of the story in one of your interviews. Podcasts are so much fun because you get like a longer, but the story is even more powerful than I thought, but that's great. No, honey, you want to be a nurse.
You want to be a nurse.
And silly girl.
But that journey led to me being a peacemaker. So since 1994, I've been in law enforcement and been in ministry and really wanting to see the best for all of humanity and allowing individuals to see each other as brothers and sisters and not seeing each other as a we versus them, or but to come back to family, come back to, regardless of whether we are white, we are Black, we are brown, but just that identity of knowing that we are the human race. And so now I'm on that journey to take it to the next level, and that is to pursue an international ambassador at large, ambassador of peace, but it requires a presidential nomination. So this is huge. So I started it, going out, just telling people, this is what God is calling me to do. And of course, people look at you like, girl, you crazy. You really crazy. How you think that's going to happen? Well, you got to have a dream.
You do. And you're really doing the work. I mean, it's really getting your name out there and people understanding, because at first I didn't know what it was. So I had to kind of dig in, understand what I was signing and doing things like that. But it does take that, though, people telling you you're crazy to kind of keep moving, right?
Right. They told me I was crazy for going into law enforcement, but here I am.
No, you're going to be a nurse. You're like, what? Wait, I just told you I want to be a police officer. So how has that been for you? How long have you been pursuing the ambassador piece?
So one thing that was unique is that trying to figure out how, when someone presents something to you and they're like, this is what you should do, doing the research. So there was only 3 ways from what I understood that you can become an international ambassador at large. And that is, 1, you've contributed largely into a presidential campaign.
No.
Not it. The second was that someone who has contributed largely into a campaign, and they want to pass their ambassadorship off to you.
Do we know anyone?
No, I don't know anybody.
Me either. I just know anyone.
And the third way is the community coming together and saying that this is a person that we've recognized as an ambassador of peace, and now we want to promote her or nominate her to be appointed to be an ambassador at large, ambassador of peace.
So, do you know someone that is an ambassador of peace right now?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
There are ambassadors at large.
Okay.
But there was just something that on the inside of me knew that our country was headed to a place and time where we needed to have an ambassador of peace. So this would be a created position.
Love it.
And so you asked me how long did it start? On September the 1st, 2019, you know how you wake up?
And
and you just know, like, I'm going to make an announcement to the world that I am going to pursue an ambassador. And that's what I did. And so I went out, I talked to leaders in the community, from mayors to council members to Board of County Commissioners, got all of their backings through letters and just supporting the mission of peace.
I mean, I just like bringing on your mission and having people be like, nah, not today. You should be like, okay, that'd be weird if people didn't agree, but it happens, right?
Yes.
And I think you're right. At a time where we need to know better to do better, it's really important to have people in the forefront that can really have an experience from all walks of life and understand. I mean, you're out there every day, just in general in the community. Have you traveled a lot to love the part of international?
So I have traveled. I initially started my travels back in 2010 when I just picked up and just went to Egypt.
Oh. It's like you woke up that day, you're like, I'm going to head to Egypt. I'm just going to hit the road today.
Hit the road. And so I traveled to Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. I later went back to Turkey. And then some other places along the way, you know, how you go on, like I took my children to Jamaica just so they could kind of see where you are and how life is and what life could have been. And that we could see that everybody lives differently and that we have compassion for all
respect
people.
And yes. I think as someone who hadn't traveled as much, people sometimes are like, how do you have such acceptance and love and empathy and just things like that for people? I'm like, because I see people for people. And I learn about things. I love that you went back to Jamaica with your kids.
Yes.
It's hard. I would have to take my kids to Lebanon to get their roots there, or Cuba for my husband. But I would still want to teach them about it.
Yes.
But I think that's really important for people to just open their mind, because your everyday here totally different.
It is.
Than a lot of other people's.
I think what happens is, and I can say this because we grew up here, at least I can say I grew up here, is that we become blind to the fact that we are spoiled. We can get up every day, we can go about our business, but we don't see it as that how blessed we are, that there are truly third world countries that are still living in a place and time that seems so far behind us that we could sit back and say, well, why is it that I can have this, but you can't have this? But how about we just come along and just talk about it, and how can we help to better humanity as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's a huge step for people to just acknowledge. I think that's what we forget, that part where people get super defensive. And we're not saying you're ungrateful, or we're not saying like you're selfish. We're literally just acknowledging that other people have it a lot tougher, and we just want you to acknowledge that. And I think as your ambassador of peace title happens, because we're going to find someone who's given a lot to the campaign, and we're going to get you there. They're going to whatever have to do. Oh, gosh, I hate those first two options. I'm like, the third one's a perfect option, the community. But I think having your mindset of just understanding, compassion, and a hope, really, that people can just open their minds up. It's really hard for me to just hear people shut down and not want to learn something because you know better, you do better. And I think everything's an educational moment. And as hard as leadership was the 4 years and how hard it was on people, I think it also helped bring a lot of things to the forefront that we need to address.
Right.
History in schools.
Yes.
Why didn't I learn about half of this?
Yes.
Why do right now I have to teach my kids on the side when they're going to school?
Yes.
Like what has so I feel like there's these little things that are coming, and I feel strongly about it, but we need people in the forefront that understand and can acknowledge both sides, understand that people are going to get defensive and think like you're attacking them, and you're not, and you're just letting them understand that there's other people besides them.
Yes.
So I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
What's your next steps? Just keep pushing the...
Yes. So right now I'm in the process of asking people to come alongside me, being that voice. As you already heard, that the leaders have already acknowledged it, that you are an ambassador of peace, but now seeking that ambassador at large. That way, it's like resurrecting the voice of peace of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that has laid dormant for so many years, and that we can push love and compassion and empathy throughout. But peace starts within. It starts with every individual. Love starts with every individual. And so with this campaign, and I hate using that word campaign, but it's just letting people know, coming alongside, so they could go to change.org, and they can go in, search my name, Edie Darling, E-D-I-E, Darling, D-A-R-L-I-N-G.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you so much. And they can go on and sign the petition. The petition basically is saying that we, the people, the voice of the people, know that the time is now for a voice of peace to help us in these turbulent times, to help us. So I'll give you an example. When there are communities that are going through an unrest, and we've seen many through these times, of being able to have a person who is designated as that voice of peace, who can come into communities and sit down with the leaders and say, let's come to that round table of peace. Let's look at it from the community's perspective. Let's look at it from the leader's perspective, but strategically come up with a plan that works for this community, because every situation is going to be different. Because sometimes it's hard seeing it from another person's perspective. So when you have that table that you're coming to and you agree to listen and allowing people to be heard, then you're able to move forward in a forward direction in order to bring the community together as a whole, to say, you may not understand me totally and completely, but I appreciate the fact that you listen to me. And that's what
a step.
Yes.
People just listening and not fighting each other, and not always taking the opposite side, even if it's wrong, right?
Exactly.
Just literally listening is a huge step.
Right.
Have you gone to meetings yet as an ambassador of peace? Have you been able to already represent that in a leadership atmosphere?
So, yes. So, throughout the community, many people know me as Pastor Edie.
Awesome.
Many people know me now. They designate me as Ambassador Edie Darling. So, yes, I go and walk around communities, try to partner with communities, and try to have those open dialogues with individuals who may not otherwise be willing to have those dialogues. And so that's what I've done throughout the years. It's not just something that's now, this present moment. This has been going on since forever, but now it's just really putting a moment to it, a face to it, a name to it. And it's not about a designation. It's about who you are. as a person and what you bring to the table and what we all bring to the table. We all bring gifts, talents, and abilities. And if we all came together and allowed ourselves to be utilized in that function, we'll go further.
How do you keep going every day? Because I'm going to assume, because I'm making an ass out of you and me with assuming, but some people are not receptive to it. Some people are, because people get that, there's something that happened in their past, or there's something, they don't want to hear about this, or how do you keep going every day? What is your motivation?
So my passion comes from, I'll say, a near-death experience. And so that near-death experience for me was when I was diagnosed with a very rare digestive condition, and that went undiagnosed for many years. And so I said to the powers that be, to God, I said, if you raise me up off of this sick bed of affliction, I promise you that everything, every gift, talent, and ability that you put on the inside of me, I will not rest until I complete the assignment that you've assigned me. So when people say, where do you get all this energy from? Because you didn't wake me up this morning, and you don't lay me down at night. And so that is what fuels me to want to press through to help humanity be a better. Yeah.
And you don't take that moment for granted.
I don't take this moment for granted, because being at this platform right now is a true gift. So I want to say thank you for that gift of knowing that we can collectively add to the world what we are meant to add to the world. And this is the part that sometimes I think what happens, Katie, is that people, though they don't understand something, sometimes people try to block others from moving and progressing forward. Why block somebody? Why not? If it's something that's good, that's going to add to something, why block them? Just wish them well. If you don't know anything else to do, I wish you well. But if you know that you have the ability to help someone, why not reach back like that officer did with me? At a tender age, he could have come in and been the statistic and did everything that everybody else was alleged to be doing. But yet when he came into our home, he reached back and saw a family in need and saw us as humanity and shook my hand. And that moment was like, ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh, I want to be a police officer. And so that's what it is. I'm reaching back, helping others, but others who have the ability to reach back and help. Push the momentum forward.
Do you think that officer knows how impactful he was that day?
You know what's interesting? I've often said I believe this man was an angel.
Right?
Because
I can't find him anywhere.
I can't find that man anywhere. I'm not kidding. All these years I've looked at the agency, I've reached and asked officers, who was this guy? Yeah. I haven't found him. Yeah.
I know. Well, it might have been an angel.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge example of people expecting something they've heard and not allowing for that moment of humanity and letting people just be themselves, and judging people on their character alone.
Yes.
And that's what he did when he walked in. And then you did the same, where your mom invited him to dinner, and it was just very, it's funny too, because you're like the peacemaker and you're like, Mom, don't call, know? And she's like, no, we need to call. But at that moment you were kind of like blown away.
Yes.
So now every time you do something with this mission, as an ambassador of peace, it's kind of like when you're blown away, you just remember that feeling every time, which is really good.
Yes.
And motivating. And I get chills talking to you. I'm glad you reached out. I love having my podcast. I have my job with BKN and I'm in operations, but this is what I love to do because I love hearing people's stories. I love to hear what motivates them, and that it's not always easy, right? You have your days where you just got to keep pushing and remember what you're grateful for. How many kids do you have?
I have 4 and 6 grandchildren.
What? What? Edie looks my age of 35.
Oh, thank you.
What, Edie?
Yeah, I'll be 51 next Saturday.
We're closing this episode down. We're out. So how do your kids respond to this?
So, of course, I think the 2 older ones, so I'll say it this way, The two older ones are my birth children. The two younger ones are children that my husband brought into our blended family. Mm-hmm. So I don't separate our children. They're mine as if they were birthed from my womb. I think for the two older ones who have gone this journey of knowing me in law enforcement, that's all they've known is mommy in law enforcement. They are more cognizant and aware of the climate in which we find ourselves in. So they're a little nervous.
Yeah.
So for the two...
Always protector mode, kind of like you were.
Yeah. Protective mode. And
but you understand that as a mom, and you don't fight it. You know?
I don't.
Yeah.
What I try to do is have those conversations with them and simply say, you know what? I know it sounds weird to have this conversation, but I've always prepared my children that if I died doing what it is that I love to do, know that I died serving humanity. It's not that I wish death upon myself, but you can have confidence of knowing that your mom had passion and empathy and love for all, that she was willing to fight the good fight of faith.
And for you, that's comforting, and you hope that's comforting for them. You're not saying, I'm going to, like, you're not trying to scare them. You're trying to let them know that every day I wake up doing what I love, and I love you. And that's really hard.
Yes.
Because you're giving a sense of reality, and the fear out there right now, and the extra, law enforcement out there doing this. It's, a hostile environment, this and that, but you take it on the side of you're always helping people.
Right. And also dispelling that all officers are bad or all community is bad. No, you have some bad eggs in every profession. You have bad individuals in communities and all communities, but a whole.
And judging one group of people on that bad egg is just overwhelming to me. Like when I say Black Lives Matter, that does not mean I hate officers. That's why I love that you're here today as a law enforcement officer in the field, working with communities, working with people at a human level.
Yes.
Because it's such a powerful message, just for everybody who takes that defense or that, that's not how it is. And it's acknowledging.
It's a moment in time to know that you have the ability to impact people in a positive way. That's why I'm so passionate about children, why I'm so passionate about people, but starting at the root, starting at the foundation. Children are so impressionable, and what you say becomes gospel to those children, and they become to mimic what they hear. And as my mama used to say, they're parrots. If you said it, it becomes their truth. And so, I try to help bridge that gap between children and law enforcement.
You're so right.
Because they need to know that not everybody is out to get you. Just like when all I saw, or all I heard, I'll say it this way, were the stories that my mother and my father used to share with me. So that became truth and reality. But when as I'm able to walk in that profession, I'm able to change the perspective and the mindset of individuals. And so that's what's important, is that we can understand that, yes, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, and it's all about how you engage the community to let us know that we matter. We matter.
And that's a beautiful way to put it, where you're not combating. So when people say all lives matter, sometimes it comes as a negative connotation, but in your field and where you are, they all do.
Yes.
Because you are out there on the line with your life every day, because everyone matters to you.
That's right.
So it's really eye-opening just have that conversation too, is like, you have to see it from different perspectives.
Treat everyone as, I'll say it this way, as equals. It doesn't matter the color of someone's skin. You are there to recognize that we all hurt. We all have pains. We all experience these challenges in our lives. But when we come to that place and that time to, help heal the land in a sense, that's what's important. And so that's what I love about just being a peacemaker. Just going out and just sharing. And truly what peace is love. Love.
And you live it every day.
I do. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. So what do we need to do for you?
Yes.
Other than donate for presidential
right. Well, right.
Really large sums.
Right. And what I'm asking people to do doesn't cost a dime. Nothing. It is truly just using your voice as a community to say, you know what, Edie Darling has been on this mission of being a peacemaker and coming in as one who loves humanity, and go in, and whether they want to choose to write the White House at a season and a time that is convenient for all, or what they
important time right now,
right? Or what they could do is go on and sign the change.org link. And I'll share that link with you.
We'll do it again.
So,
and letters too.
Yes, they can write letters to, to the actual White House and say, Edie Darling has been supported by leaders in the community as an ambassador of peace, and we would like for her to be nominated as an ambassador at large so she could take the mission of peace around the world.
So do you set up the traveling on that? What does that job role look like? Because it is a job. You have a job right now and you're still helping communities, but what does that look like for you?
So for me, what it would look like if when the president designates that role.
I'm going to slip into Kamala's DMs and I'm just going to keep letting her know.
Yes.
And I'll be like, hey, Madam Vice President, I'm going to keep sending you this message every day at 9 a.m. and you're going to eventually read it and you're going to send it.
Exactly. So, I'm sorry. I just got.
I was saying, what does that job role look for you? What is that every day? Are you setting up the meetings? Are you taking their?
So imagine it like this right here, as being a designee on behalf of the United States of America, having that diplomatic protection that no matter where you go, so you be a representative of the United States, that if something happened again out in wherever, whether it was in California, whether it's in Southside St. Pete or wherever there's that riots or anything like that, that I would go into wherever. So the community would then reach out to the ambassador at large and say, our community, can you come and help our community?
And you would set it up.
And I would set it up.
So you would get to take the lead on that.
Yes.
Kind of like where you're traveling to next and what community you're going to, and people would reach out to you then.
Yes.
To minister as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's
exactly.
Great. I want to talk about your book too. There's so many other questions out, but let's talk about your book a little bit.
Yes. So the name of the book is The Time Is Now, Awaken Your Dormant Gifts. And this is your copy, by the way.
Thank you.
And it comes with a
gifts.
workbook as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll sign it. So this came about when I have been working collectively with the Library of Congress and going back to gifts, talents, and abilities that you have. And, I reached out to them to try to help me on this journey. And so Miss Harper, who used to work for the Library of Congress, she said to me this one day, she called me up on the phone and she said, "What are you doing with the gift God gave you?" And I said, "Oh my goodness."
First of all, aggressive, but I like it.
Like calling you out.
Really assertive to the point where I'm going to answer you and it's going to change my life, but that's fine.
So I said to her, well, right now I'm doing motivational speaking.
You're like, I'm sorry.
I'm getting ready for a conference. She said, the time is now for you to use the gift that God has given you with the world. And so she was really that mom voice that's pushing you, that no matter like when you're growing up and people are like, oh, no, like my mom, how she went to say,
no, you're going to be a nurse.
You want to be a nurse. You don't want to be a police officer. So all of those, and so all of those people who always shunned your gifts, your talents. And so what you did, you put them on the shelf. And so all of those dreams, those aspirations. But I love the fact that I had a voice then to say, no, Mom, I want to be a police officer. I'm no longer going to please you. I have to do what is burning on the inside of me to do. So what the book does, it helps you. It takes it back to your journey. It takes it back to the beginning of when you had those hopes, those dreams, and those aspirations of being and doing and knowing. But yet what happened, you began to be a people pleaser along the way. or doing the things that mama and daddy wanted you to do instead of doing what the Almighty destined you to do. So it takes you back to the beginning. And so it reintroduces you back to the Creator, the one who created you from the foundation, and say, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but to give you hope for a future. And so then the workbook brings it back to you. Oh yeah, I remember when I said I wanted to do, oh yeah. And I remember all the negative things that were said.
Yeah.
And so then you erase those.
Society gets a hold of you.
Yes. And that's when you erase those mindsets and then you get a restart. You get to do it.
I'm excited. Yes. I'm excited to do the workbook. I've, through life, I'm just very open to welcoming everyone in, but I have a very good relationship with God, Jesus, and just understanding I'm not, I wouldn't consider myself Catholic or Christian, or I just love everybody and I accept everybody while I pray, you know? So, being in Catholic school for 12 years, you question a lot of things and you're wondering what, and if I had more of a ministry, I think that was more open-minded and took my questions and let me kind of understand or acknowledge them instead of shunned me and said, no, the Bible says this. I think it would have been a lot easier on me to accept some things. But I am very just accepting of everybody. I just think if your character is good, you are okay with me. If you're trying to help people, you are good with me. And so I'm super excited about this.
And the one beautiful thing about our spirit is that who are we to judge anybody? We've all had our journey. We've all had our stories, and we don't know the path that we all have to take in order to be where we have to be in the future. And so this is why I love helping people on their journey to self-discovery of who they are. I'm not trying to tell you who to be.
Nope.
All I'm asking you to do is just do a self-evaluation of self-discovery.
Yeah, and once they really figure out who they are internally, it's like sky's the limit.
That's it.
Like no one can come at, especially as an adult when you learn that. I mean, as children, very easily molded. And you have to be very careful who they surround themselves with. But I think just as an adult, when you're like that aha moment where you're like, okay, I forgot to look inward first. Okay, that sucks, but okay, we'll get to it. So there's always that little aha, and it's really refreshing to hear you lead people in that direction. I already am in love with you. I think you're amazing. Your passion, I'm a huge fan of pastors too. That rock. So you're not my pastor. But I am very big on just preaching to community that, there's hope. There's a lot of love out there. There's a ton of love. We just got to come together.
Exactly.
And it's not as hard as we think it is, or it's not what the media portrays. And I love that you have a workbook about it. Because I'm all about homework.
And the book is designed for all ages. I've had children as young as 5 who can read, and they get excited. They're holding on to the book. And
this will be our nighttime, our next read.
And individuals who are 99 years young, who are still feeling as though they have something to offer the world. And I'm grateful for my mom. She's still living. She's 81. She'll be 82 in January. And that she still wants to find her truth of self-discovery, of not always just sitting back and thinking my life is over. Every day you get up, there is something positive that you can add to the world. And so she's truly my shero.
And does she know you're not a nurse?
She knows. Now she's trying to manipulate all the younger grandchildren. You want to be a nurse,
right?
And they're like,
no, maybe. Okay, so this is amazing. I love that you're here. We can do, when you do become the ambassador of peace, you'll come back on and we'll have a little chat about your roles. But tell us what we can do for you. All the links that we can go to, let's get all that out on them.
So they can go to ediedarling.com. And on ediedarling.com, there's the link directly to the change.org, or they can go directly to change.org and search Edie Darling and then go on and sign the petition. The more you can share, I say, most of the individuals out here, they are lovers of peace and they are lovers of love. So they can share it to their page, share, and have people sign the petition, urge them to sign the petition now. Because here's the thing, we don't know what's all on our horizon. We kind of feel what is on our horizon. We know that there is discord in our community. We know that there is a divide like no other. I heard someone say to me the other day as they began to, in a sense, weep, that they said, I've never thought that our nation could come under such discord that we could be on the verge of a civil war. And they said, this is what concerns me now. This is where we are the change makers. We are the peace holders. So we all can be out here making a change for the better and not being the ones who's constantly spewing negativity, but spewing love without violence. Mm-hmm. And so this is why I'm passionate about this role of being a voice of peace to the world, not just in our nation. Nations abroad are hurting just as much as we are hurting here. But to know that there is someone that they can go to and say, she represents us all. Mm-hmm. And that's who I am. So yes, go on.
Yes.
Share. Go to ediedarling.com, sign the petition.
Yep.
Go to change.org, search Edie Darling, sign the petition, share it with everybody. And say, this is our ambassador at large, our ambassador.
I'm getting hype on a Sunday morning. Okay, so ediedarling.com, EDIEDARLING.com, and you can find her on Not a Great Whisperer podcast page, at The Real K Ray page, katieray.com. We're all .coms over here. Thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited about your mission. I think this is a beautiful thing. I didn't know about it until now. It's all about educating people. And I'm excited for you to be appointed. We're going to get you there.
Yeah.
Even if it's someone who's listening who has a large sum of money that they want to give to the presidential campaign, you let us know. We'll get her there.
Yeah, and actually, I'll tell you, they don't even have to donate a dime. But if they did, and they want to pass their ambassadorship, baby, pass it on. Pass it on. Pass that torch. Pass it on.
But if you already did, let me know. Thank you so much for joining. We're at BKN Creative in Ybor City. Again, Not a Great Whisperer podcast with Edie Darling. We're out.